All right, ready to lovers. We are here on a Friday night, and we just saw the. I think it's the finale because the reunion is always a separate thing. Is separate show. But I hope you all had a chance to watch tonight's episode. I want to hear you guys' predictions, all that good stuff, and of course, I know you guys know we have the beautiful Miss Sabrina is in the building. I know a lot of you have questions for her. We want to know what happened. We were expecting to see Sabrina and Demetrius in this finale, but you know what? There's got to be a reason, and I appreciate a woman that has a mind of her own. So, you all, please help me welcome the very beautiful Sabrina to Reality Check Recap.
Hey y'all. Hey. How are
Hey,
you?
lady.
Hi, Crystal.
It's so good to see you. I love your top. I absolutely love it.
Just
So
for
cute.
you.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you hanging out with us on a Friday night.
I know,
We
right? I
just
hope you don't mind. I do have a drink with me though.
please. I should have had one with me. You know what? I should have had one as well. But I have I have a new little member of my family that's going to be hanging out with me for reality check. So I'm gonna introduce
Oh.
Dior. So
Horrible.
Dior is taking the place of my wine tonight. He is hanging out with me to get all the scoop.
His
You
name
guys
is
see the
Dior.
baby?
His name is Dior.
Dior wants the scoop, right?
I love it. So precious.
He is a toy poodle, and he is absolutely my love. So
Hmm.
he's hanging out with me, but I don't have my drink on hand, but it's all good.
Okay, good.
You are welcome to have yours. Now, before we get into all the questions that the people I'm sure have for you,
Okay.
what are your thoughts? Did you watch tonight's episode?
I
You
did not.
didn't.
I did not. No.
You did not watch it.
I kind of
Okay.
know a little bit what happened. I have an understanding what happened. So no, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's fair. That's fair. For those of you that did watch, I just watched, and I gotta say, I think Clifton's Choose and Joy was the cutest we have seen in Ready to Love history. He had like a little written sign that said, "Will you choose me? Yes or no?" I'm like a hopeful romantic, so I was
Me
just like,
too. Me too.
I can't take
Me too.
it. I can't take it. Let me ask you this. Somebody said Sabrina's over the whole show. Let me ask you, were there any couples? Are you rooting for any of the couples
Yeah,
that
actually, I'm rooting for Joy and Clifton. I was
yeah,
able to witness parts of their journey, and I think that their connection is genuine. I think
yeah,
their love is beautiful. I didn't see tonight's episodes, but I've seen them together, and there's
okay,
definitely some it's just like magnetic, and
yeah,
it's complementary. And so I'm rooting from them. I hope that they, succeed and they're able to ride off into the sunset together.
yeah. I hope so too. I I think, and I want you guys in the chat, you guys let us know who you predict. We're gonna place a wager on who we think is gonna be together at the reunion. I really believe that Joy and Clifton were authentic. And I gotta say that I think, having a lesser cast, like with starting out with 14 and having, it just seemed like they got a group of people that for the most part were a lot more authentic, because we see people that decided, okay, this is not for me. We see even tonight with Dakia and Paul. I gotta say, I'm surprised Paul made it the entire show. I was, no disrespect to Paul, but I swear the first couple of days I was like, first couple of episodes I was like, Paul ain't gonna make it, but Paul made it to the end. He didn't go off into the sunset, but he did make it to the end. So
Paul's hilarious. Paul's a good guy, man.
yeah, well, we saw we want to talk about your you guys when you guys went out and you let Paul know immediately. This is just a friendship thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to. I mean, I know we're gonna get there, but yeah, I had to. I have no problem saying how I feel.
Yeah, we see that. We see that. So let's go back. Let's go back into the journey. Let's go back before we get to the stuff that everybody is waiting for.
Okay.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Let's do it.
What was it? Because we saw, Ready to Love had another season that was right before you all season. So were you a part? Did you know that you were going to be on the show when that season was airing?
I did not. I did not know. I think Actually, I did know that when the season, I found out as the season was airing that I was going to be on the show.
Okay.
But I actually didn't really realize that there were going to be 2 seasons in DC at the time. So when I got casted and they started rolling out the season before, I was like, well, wait, I'm not on any of the flyers. And I'm not there. Like, who am I? Am I just like a surprise lady? Like, I was like, please don't have me be like a curveball.
Yeah.
I was so scared I was a curveball because they were rolling out and I was in any of like the promos. I was like, they send me up. They send me up.
Because it was like back to back. It was super fast.
Yeah.
And some of the cast said they thought that they were going to be on the other season. So I get that. What was it about the show that made you sign up to be on the show?
I mean, like you, I like the term hopeful romantic. I was like, I'm a hopeless romantic. And so for me, coming out of like a long-term relationship, I just really wanted to do something different. I was like, I want to break out of my comfort zone. I want to break out of my network. And the people who live in DC know that DC is like 2 degrees of separation. You know, it's like, I don't want to date someone who knows my ex. Like, I'm not going to be in that bubble anymore. Like, I want to get out of that. And so I was a fan of the show. I thought that the show was great. You know, I really liked the premise of it. And I thought, getting Black professionals together who are all in a space of ready to settle down was like a good way of like curating the circumstances to find love. I was like, oh, this is ideal. You know what I mean? I'm not good at like self-promotion. I'm not good at like, I don't do any of the apps.
Yeah.
That stuff. So honestly, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like a matchmaking service where someone else kind of like does the legwork to like find people who would be compatible with me, or I'm gonna do this show, and it's which is kind of like a matchmaking service on its own, right?
Right.
But
Okay. Well, so how long had you been divorced before? How long was that before the show started?
Hold on. About 4 or 5 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we were separated, to be clear, we were separated for a year and a half before that. So in DC, you have to be separated for at least 6 months, but we were separated for quite some time. So in terms of when like the divorce was like signed, sealed, delivered, like wet ink, it was about like 5 months.
But the relationship had been over for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
How did you feel? Because I know from being someone that was, my first marriage was a long time. It is really uncomfortable getting back out there and starting to date. And a lot of times you've got some work to do, some individual work to do to deal with the things that happen in that relationship and why that relationship, to kind of deal with the disillusion of that. Do you feel like you did some internal work on you to kind of get yourself in a healthy place before you started dating again?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't have the choice, Crystal, to be honest with you. We separated at the start of the pandemic. So it seemed like the world was like crashing, everything was in disarray. And so was my relationship at the time. So it was just like an added layer. And so, at that time, people are sheltering in place. People aren't going anywhere, And so whether I liked it or not, I was spending a lot of time by myself.
We all were.
I saw a therapist. I still see a therapist. I believe in therapy. I'm not one of those people who feel like, they're too good for it. I had to learn how to put measures in place to maintain like my mental and emotional health.
Yeah.
I had to learn to take accountability in the areas that, I contributed to, the relationship not working out, or the things that I decided to overlook and that bit me in the ass later. I had to do a lot of self-reflecting. And so I think that having to be by myself for a long time was definitely a big part of that. I think the fact that I am a champion of love, I really want to work on myself because I'm sure you can agree, right? Like when you go through a divorce, it is one of the most painful things that you can ever experience, Like it really is. They say like second to losing your spouse. It's like second right there, right? When you talk about
I think it can be almost equally as devastating because death it is a death, right? But when a person dies, you can't be with them because they're not here.
Right.
But when there's a divorce, the marriage is dead, and they're still there.
They're still out there. So they still walking around. They're gonna go date other people.
Absolutely. So it's a different type of death. It's hard.
It's hard. It's really, really hard. And so for me, just the severity of it, I was like, I never want to be in this space again. I never want to feel like this again, you know? And I think that, and I'm a realist in a lot of ways, definitely optimist, but I'm a realist in a lot of ways. And I know it takes two to tango. And for me,
Yeah.
it's like, if there's anything I can do for myself to make sure that I reduce the chances of this happening again, then I'm all for it. That's what I
Yeah.
want. And so
Yeah.
that's what really led me to like go to therapy, to put those practices in place, spend some time by myself. I'm not gonna lie, I dated a few people too, just
Hmm.
to get back out there and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah. But that's also the reason why, I kind of appreciated the process, because the process does have its structure. It
Hmm.
has a structure. There's things that you can and can't do. They're helping us facilitate the dates. It almost was like a really great way of like kind of easing me back into the dating scene in a lot of ways, because it's not just like the wild wild west. When you're in long-term relationships and you get back into these streets and you realize how cold these streets are.
These streets are cold.
These streets are cold.
These streets are cold. They are.
I was like, okay, I'm down. Like bring on this process, bring in this structure, like help a girl out, help me out.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Are you and your ex-husband, are you guys in a good place now, or are you estranged?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like him and I have known him for the most of my adult life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We grew up together in a lot of ways, and so
Hmm.
I think that when we once we decided to separate, once we decided to divorce, I think that we fell back into the place of friendship, which is where we
Hmm.
started. And
Okay.
there was a lot of intention about making sure that each other was okay, making
Hmm.
sure that it wasn't a nasty separation, it wasn't a nasty divorce, making
Hmm.
sure that, we set each other up to be happy and to be good. And to be honest with you, like I still love him. If he needed something, I would still be there for him, you know what I mean? But
Right. Right.
it's a healthy distance. Like he's moving on, I'm moving on, but we're still there for each other.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, let's get into this mixer, this first mixer,
Okay.
because I really believe, and I'm sure most of the chat would agree with me, and at least for the first half of the series, we obviously saw the chemistry with Joy and Clifton, but we also saw a lot of chemistry with you and Demetrius, right?
Mhm.
So I just knew, I was like, the two of them, because he really only had eyes for you.
Yeah.
We saw you give some, or at least that's what we saw on camera, right? I don't know what else was happening. That's why we got you here. But
Mhm.
from what we saw, he really only was focused on you. We did see you kind of entertain, but for me, and I could be wrong, for me, it really seemed like the chemistry was really there with you and Demetrius more than Donovan, more than Tori. I just felt like the two of you and Clifton and Joy were like those couples that were automatically attracted to each other and just had that energy. Did you feel like that when you first got to the mixer?
Um, Definitely, Demetrius and I had a strong connection.
Hmm.
Donovan wasn't at the mixer; he was a curveball. So,
Right.
and I would feel like Tori also came out as someone who I immediately had fun with. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
it was a different type of connection. So, but I left the mixer really feeling strongly about Demetrius, feeling like Tori was also a top connection. Those were the two from the beginning.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and it's funny because at the mixer, a lot of the women were really attracted to Demetrius. He was like a favorite when you saw that first. He's very good looking, very well put together. As far as how he dressed and his presentation was very, very attractive. What was your first impression once you had a chance to talk to him and you left? Like, what did you think of you guys' energy that first at the first mixer?
Demetrius and I talked toward the end of the mixer. Like we
Hmm.
had talked, so I had saw him from my periphery a few times, like
Hmm.
there at the table when I first walked in, but he was very respectful. Like he was talking to someone, so he acknowledged me, but he kept talking to the woman he was talking to. And so
Okay.
I didn't really start to like we didn't make our way towards each other till toward the end.
Okay.
And so I remember being like, oh, finally, like we have a chance to talk. And immediately he has just like a very strong just like self-possessed, just kind of like grounded energy a little bit, so he
Hmm.
is very strong, very confident. And so I immediately was attracted to that. Like I like men who are strong and confident. I like alpha males.
Right.
He was definitely giving that vibe. And so I just got giddy. Like I remember, like I get really giddy and girly and like laughy when I like a dude. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like
did too.
and I got there. Like I was laughing and giggling and stuff like that, and he was catching the vibe, and he was, and it just seemed very serendipitous. Like the things that we were talking about, the conversation was flowing. We had similar backgrounds. There were things that we were just able to bounce off each other, and so I felt like it felt simple, it felt easy, and so I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely worth exploring.
Okay. Okay, then let's talk about Tori because you did have a connection with him also initially.
Right.
And you mentioned the fact that you guys had fun. I think, to me, and I think this is a good note for all of us because I mean, I was dating for, I mean, oof, the ATL streets are cold, right? So I was out there in these streets for a minute. But I think that a lot of times, especially when you've been married before, you tend to really like make things too serious. And I love the fact that Clifton and Joy were like the couple that just had fun. We just saw fun from them. We didn't see a lot of really heavy conversation, and I think that allowed them to see the best out of each other. You mentioned Tori was fun, and some of the other ladies that came on that have talked about Tori have said the same thing. That he is a lot of fun. He's got good energy, even though we saw him with some kind of questionable comments about moving organs around that I want to ask you about, but what was it about Tori that really attracted you? And how did that, because it seemed like you were drawn to him, but it didn't seem to really move towards like a physical chemistry.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Tori was the first person to come over and interrupt a conversation that I was having to like pull my attention. And that to me is just so symbolic of Tori. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
Tori's very like proactive, very like, in your face, like, let's have fun, let's do this, let's do that. And that type of energy is, contagious.
Yeah.
It's fun. You just, you're drawn to it. And so I felt
Hmm.
like, when he was doing that, I was like, yeah, let's do it. He was making the experience very enjoyable. And so I think that I was definitely interested in that regard. Tori's a handsome guy. I'll never say otherwise. I
Hmm.
that I wasn't attracted to him physically. I think for us, it's just we have a very different pace. And then I did feel like we kind of hit a wall a little bit when it came
Hmm.
to everything that manifested. But it's all love with Tori. I have no ill will. I think that he's still a really sweet, nice, fun, charismatic guy.
Okay. Okay. Now, what I guess talk to us about how your approach was, because of course we saw Demetrius and we saw that you and Tori had a connection, and that infamous truth or dare
So I
game.
was like the nibble heard around the world. I was like, I ain't never.
It was. We got so let's get into that because I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting there watching, and when you were asked that question, I was like, oh, like Tori is going, because you could see camera obviously pan to him, but you could tell he was really shocked and surprised, and it also seemed like you were very intentional about the fact that Demetrius was your strongest connection. How did that night play out for you? Because we saw, of course, a short snippet, but that did seem to be like a turning point with the situation with you and Tori.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like in retrospect, I was like, damn it, Sabrina, why did you choose Dare? You know what I mean? Like, and then Eric, why are you talking about nibbling on ears? Who nibbles on ears? You know what I'm saying? That's what I was like, that's how did I set myself up like this? No, but it definitely put me on blast to have to like, as it does to say who is your strongest connection. But I had to be real with Demetrius. Like Demetrius put himself out there with me at the pool party, like in front of everyone to say how he feels, to say that he was going to be intentional about it. And he said in that conversation, I can't recall if it was actually aired, that like he wants it to be reciprocal. Like,
Yeah.
I'm putting myself out there and now like, the ball's in your court to,
Hmm.
like we had just had that conversation like 10 minutes before we sat down to dinner. So for
Hmm.
me, it felt like because like we had that connection, because I wanted him to come out of his shell and kind of show me that he likes me, that was like, well, this is the time that I gotta like, reciprocate. Like this is
Yeah.
what he wants, and this is the guy that I'm most interested in. I have to keep it real in this scenario. It was never meant to hurt Tori. And I
Hmm.
want people to realize like this is unusual, right? Like it's unusual to be talking to two guys at the same time and then to know about each other, or
Yeah.
talking to two guys and then to see you interact with one another. Like usually, you know what I'm saying? Like, You keep one on.
Yeah, that's not that. That would be uncomfortable. And I think there was a scene where you said that when you guys were like on the bus, and you're like, this is not. You're not supposed to. This is really uncomfortable. Like,
Like they see everything. I mean, I see it with them too, but you got to remember that guys are very territorial.
right.
So are women. Being like the guys are being a little territorial in this circumstance too, as I guess they should be. You go after what you want, right? So
Mhm.
it was a very unusual situation. I never intended to, um, you know, shock Tory, to throw him off in any type of way. I was more than concerned about his reaction. After the dinner, he got up, he left, he kind of stormed off. I followed him. Like I followed him and I found him.
Okay.
And we talked for like a good 30, 40 minutes off camera, about the kiss and how he felt and the position
Mhm.
that he said I put him in. And I was explaining my side of things, that like, Tori, it's only been like 2 weeks. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I'm still very early in this process. I can't put all my eggs in your basket, And so
Mhm.
we had that conversation, to the point where when we got back to the main to the group, Demetrius was like, where the hell did you go? You know what I'm saying? Like you just nibbled on the ear and you just disappeared with Tori. So I definitely was like already at that point feeling like it was a little bit of like a tug of war, like what's
Mhm.
going on between. And I was trying my best to let both know that like we're early on. I like both of you for very different reasons because they're very different people. But I'm
Mhm.
not about to sit here and act like I'm all in with either one of you yet. It is way too early for that. And so I
Right.
have like a balancing act that I didn't quite balance too well that night. But
Well, I mean that is a crazy predicament to be in. I just want to take a quick minute because the chat is going crazy, and I think someone said something. People are saying something about my co-host for Owns Put a Ring on It, Kojo. You guys know my channel is always about positivity, so we're not going to do anything. We're not going to bash anyone, especially not someone that I respect and enjoy working with. So let's keep it positive, guys. We're talking about love. Love is a positive thing. So anyway, they're talking about someone else, totally not, that has nothing to do with regular love. We just want to make sure we bring the conversation back to this conversation. So let me ask you this, because we didn't see Demetrius talking like focus on anyone else. In fact, he was called out by some of the other ladies for, like, why are you here? Are you trying to play a game? What is the deal? Even Tori, I think after that kiss, we saw him try to do some things, but it didn't really feel like he was serious. Do you feel like both of the guys, and then we'll talk about Donovan in a minute, it felt like both of them really were like, I'm going to totally focus on you, and you were the one that was like, I'm not sure. I got to keep my options open. Do you feel like that's a true analysis of the situation?
I mean, I don't want to speak for them. They can, what they said is what they said. I think for me, we were in the process, we were encouraged to forge multiple connections. Tommy had
Right.
said multiple times, to go out of your way to meet other people, to talk to other people, to give people that you usually wouldn't give the chance to them, to give the chance to them, right? He said
Right.
that multiple. So
Right.
I'm following what we're supposed to be doing. I don't believe that Tori and Demetrius had their eyes solely on me in that process at all.
Okay. Okay.
In the ladies' lounge, I hear about them talking to so and so until 2 a.m. And so
Okay.
like that wasn't, you can't show that on camera, right? You can't show everything, but like I'm hearing about them forging connections with some of the other ladies, how much they're talking to them, they're FaceTiming them, things that they've done for them. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't the only one that they were doing these things for. Now I will say that Demetrius did have me in his top consistently.
Right.
Like I will say that much. And I think that Tory had me in his top for a long time as well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I do think that they were definitely interested in me. I think they were definitely pursuing me. I think that, had things been different, maybe they would have just focused on me like solely if I would have reciprocated in the same way.
Okay. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair. So after that, like I said, I think that Truth or Dare game, we see the connection with you and Tori never really got back to where it was. It became you and Demetrius. And then the curveball, Donovan gets in the mix. And I actually was like, okay. So tell us, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. Did you have a connection with Donovan? Did you feel there was something there?
Yeah, I think that Donovan and I definitely had a connection. I would actually classify it as more of an attraction.
Okay.
I think that we were attracted to one another. And I think that he's a very charming man. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I was attracted to the charm, attracted to his physique. It was easy to talk to him. And we also have things in common. In retrospect, I really don't think that the connection was there. And I think he probably characterized it that way too. It's just one of those things that he was a curveball. Here in walks this, like, you
Good
know,
looking guy, right?
yeah, you know what I mean? And it's easy to talk to him, and we're laughing, is this, and we're giving each other the eyes, like, like he was the perfect curveball in that sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
So there was the conversation you got that you all had about his how long he had been divorced, and he had been divorced even a shorter period of time than you had, and you were a little concerned about that. Were you?
I think he was. I think he had been divorced a little longer than I had actually, like formally, like signed, sealed, delivered, divorce. Like he had been like a little bit longer than I had actually. So
Okay.
I think out of the two of us, I had been divorced less time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it seemed like you were a little concerned about had he had enough time being
Yeah.
single.
Yeah, I did. Donovan was very forthcoming about how his marriage ended.
Hmm.
He did um he did share with me some details about how he spent his time post divorce that caused concern.
Okay.
It really did. So it was that on top of like the kid situation. He was very much of the mindset, well, if my partner really needs it, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like the attraction was there, but when it came to the connection in terms of what we wanted and things like that, that wasn't as much there. And honestly, I did have concerns about whether or not that he really wanted to settle down again. I mean, that's just based off of some of the things that he shared with me.
Hmm.
Mhm.
People are asking about his fingernails, the Donovan with the dirty fingernails. What was what was it bad? Was it really were
I
his
don't know
finger?
what fingernails.
They're asking did Donovan have Donovan had dirty fingernails. I'm
Not
like,
at all. Actually, it's the opposite. Donovan had like manicures and stuff on, so his nails were like just as shiny as mine. So I don't know. I don't know nothing about no dirty fingernails. Like he has like whenever I was on dates with him, his fingers were like shining.
so
So
he's the pretty boy. That he did come off like that.
yeah, like he takes care of himself. Like I didn't see any I didn't see any dirty nails, and that's a turn off for me. So I
Yeah.
definitely repeat that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the conversation that you guys had where he pretty much kind of told you he didn't feel like there was a reciprocation on your part? Like he was kind of unhappy in the way you all's connection was
Oh,
moving.
I
What
think
was
I know
your?
what they're saying. The reason why I said he had dirty nails is because he was being really petty and he was picking at his nails. Like
Okay.
that's
Okay.
yeah, okay. I was like, where did the dirty nails come from? No,
Oh yeah, trust me, the chat is on it. They know every.
he's so petty. He was just sitting there like picking at his nails and stuff like that. I was like, oh God, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
So what did you think when he kind of like confronted you about how he didn't feel the reciprocation was there?
That is not what that was about. That was not I really hated that people didn't have the chance to see that that was not him scolding me for my actions. That was
Mhm.
not him checking me in any regard. We were actually going back and forth because Donovan took an event that happened off camera between the two of us and weaponized it against me. So that's what we were talking about. And he justified it
Okay.
saying, "Oh, your actions are misaligned, and oh, you're this way and you're this way, and that's why I did it." So it was a much larger conversation. It was like I felt betrayed. I called him out for it. Unfortunately, that
Mhm.
was not aired, but there was a lot more that transpired between us, and he was acting very petty about the situation.
Can you share just a little bit about what happened that caused where did that come from? Like what was the motivation behind that?
I think that at that point in the journey, you know, the men were like, Sabrina, you need to make a goddamn decision. Oh, man.
Everybody. No, you're good. It's after dark. We're good.
They were like, Sabrina, you better make a damn decision. Like, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
they were coming down on me, girl. And I was just like, okay. And I was still kind of like, oh man, I don't know what, one of these. And so I was like, and so going into the retreat, I was like, I really have to have some tough conversations with both of them about where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out of the retreat, I was like being drawn more towards Demetrius, and I was kind of landing on the side of Demetrius out of the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
In response to that, Donovan then used some stuff that happened and told Demetrius. Do you see what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
To get back at me. He did that to ruin my connection with Demetrius. There was a lot of other things that happened. And so when I called him out on it, he tried to justify it as like, oh, that's because you're misaligned. And that's because you're all these things. And it was just like, no, you're just mad because out of the two of you, I was choosing Demetrius.
Wow. That's what I was going to ask. Was at what point, was there a point where there was somebody that was ahead? Because we saw, it seemed like you were kind of undecisive, and we did feel that the guys like, come on, let's, how are you not able to make a decision? And then when you did make the decision, we thought everything.
A few weeks. Like I think people need to realize how much is squeezed into such a short amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, you're asked to pretty much proclaim your love for someone within weeks, and you didn't even know this person existed before. So and I think that people need to realize that, like, a hopeful romantic, that I take the word love very seriously. Like, I don't want to be attached to someone for months. I don't want to act like we're on our way to love or to marriage just because for the sake of the show.
Right.
I think that I took it really seriously, but I think that in other respects, or I think maybe for other cast members, they were willing to just continue to date and to see where it landed.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming out of it like, I want to feel like I could really be with this person at the end of the day. Like,
but you come into it knowing it is a television show. There's a small window for taping. So did you have the understanding that this is going to have to go really quickly?
I did, and I felt like when my feelings weren't progressing with the pace of the show, that's when you saw like the friction.
The friction. Okay. You know what? Let's take a break and watch this clip. This is you and Demetrius. And this was the clip was going one way and then it flipped it with another way. So let's watch this clip of you guys getting back on the right track, and then it flipped and went another way. Hold on, let's pull up this clip and let's check this out, and then we'll come back and hear Sabrina's take on it.
Like, we are building something together. We are like,
are we together?
Yeah, the last name doesn't mean that.
It's a part of it, though.
It can be. It doesn't have to be.
For me, it's a part of it.
Okay.
So you feel like we got everything out in the open that we need to get out in the open?
I feel like this is the follow-up conversation that we needed to have.
Okay.
My heart still swells for Demetrius. I can't help but admire and respect the man that he is. But this does feel like we are scrambling to make up for lost time.
So can we hug on that?
Oh, yeah. You definitely hug on that.
I feel good because now we can actually take a deep breath. I understand who she is now, and I understand what's important to her. Reservations can be communicated. We can talk it out, and we can see where we're at after that communication has taken place.
So we talked about a lot. I'm gonna let you finish your drink because I got a surprise I want to tell you.
Oh, here we go.
My family's in town for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to know if you would like to meet my family to, get a gauge
Your
on,
family?
Yeah, my family to get a gauge on who I am, and they get a gauge on who you are, and you have that interaction with them. So you can just get to know me a little bit more. How you feel about that?
For me, I just don't think we're there yet.
So that's not a yes or a no?
I would prefer for us to be in a stronger place so that when we are before your family, that's reflected.
Okay, so question.
Yeah.
You've watched the show before, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a part of the process that they go through. Like you date the person and then they introduce the exes and then they bring in the family. Why was it so important for you not to do that when that really, obviously Demetrius probably wouldn't have wanted you to meet his family that early if you guys were just meeting and dating, but it's a part of the process of the show. Right. So why did you decide not to do that, knowing that really is like the formula that Ready to Love has?
So this goes back to some of the information that was shared with Demetrius by Donovan. There was a period where Demetrius wasn't speaking to me
Oh my God.
after he heard that information.
Okay.
We had the opportunity to talk it through, and the conversation that you guys just saw was the one that happened right after that.
Okay.
In the time that he wasn't talking to me, he told his family what had happened between me and Donovan.
Okay.
And so he told his family about us. He wasn't talking to me. We ended up talking. And then like the next day, he's like, will you meet my family? And I was like, no.
Well, he told you that he told his family that information?
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
And so that was the reason I was like, you know, it's true. Like, I really do believe that when you come before the elders in your family, like, you got to be solid. You know,
I agree. Yeah.
You gotta show a united front. And we had just worked through some really like sticky situations, like kind of just barely got through it ourselves. And now you want me to turn around the next day and meet, you know, your aunt who you call your mother. Like, it was just too fast. And I was like, we're not even there yet. Like, we just started, you were ignoring me. Like, you were just.
Yeah, so there's so many holes that we did not know.
Yeah.
I have to circle back and ask, can you tell us what Donovan told him that would make him not speak to you?
So, Donovan and I shared a kiss off camera.
Okay.
So we went out, we went to have drinks, we had a kiss, it was a good kiss, whatever. And we decided, he actually suggested, he was like, you know, let's not say anything. He was like, I have a daughter, I have children. I don't want them hearing about their father kissing on camera. Like, I don't want them to get messy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't mind. Like, yeah, let's not say anything to anyone. Let's keep it between us.
Mm-hmm.
Happened weeks prior, right? Weeks prior happened. Then at the getaway, when he sees that I'm gravitating towards Demetrius, next thing I know, Demetrius is not talking to me after we leave the getaway because Donovan had called him and told him about the kiss. And for him, Demetrius felt like it was this huge betrayal because I hadn't told him about it.
Right. Yikes.
And then we talked through it. And then the next day he wants me to meet his aunt. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to have her rip me to shreds on TV because of something you told her in this process. Like, I felt like he tainted the initial image of me with her rather than letting me like present myself, rather than showing her like, this is the woman I'm really excited about. And then maybe sharing that down the road, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this. That is crazy. And I think, again, like I said earlier, like, everyone comes to this show knowing what the process is, right? So I'm sure that, you know, there's so much that people see on camera, but I'm sure that everybody has conversations, kisses, maybe more with people off camera that no one knows about. Why do you think Demetrius took that as such a betrayal? And do you believe that he told you everything? Because you said earlier you would hear in the ladies' lounge, obviously he was probably, I don't know if he kissed anybody, but I'm sure there were things that interactions that you didn't know about. Why do you think he took it as such a deep betrayal?
This is something like I've learned this since wrapping the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was more so that I just don't think that he liked to be in a position where another man could throw something in his face.
Okay.
And and by me not telling him, I left opportunity for that to happen.
Gotcha.
I think he was disappointed in me for not telling him. And at the time, I had the stance of, you ain't my man. Like, it was like, that was my stance. Like, you ain't my man, I ain't gonna tell you nothing, right?
Right.
And I think that in thinking through it and reflecting on it, I think that it wasn't so much that he was upset by the kiss. I mean, he wasn't happy about it, right? He wasn't happy, but I think he could understand that within the context of this process.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so that he just was disappointed that I couldn't be transparent about it.
Yeah.
That then that information was used and thrown in his face by another man. Like, that's difficult to swallow.
Yeah, that is, especially when it's, and that is beyond petty. That's like some, I won't say what I think it really is, but that's lame. How long did you all not speak?
Remember, this is like truncated, so it was just like 3 days or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you guys have that conversation. It did seem like there was like a relief. You all, because at least from his perspective, you see him kind of exhale and feel like, okay, we're back in a good place. I understand a little bit more about who she is. what happened after that? Because then we see a scene where you're saying to him that you just don't feel like he's really in, and you didn't feel like it was really authentic. So what happened from that conversation? You guys get back on a good place to you deciding that this is just not going to work for you.
I felt like, Demetrius and I have a good connection, but our rhythm has always been kind of off in terms of
Okay.
like how we interact. You know what I mean? I felt like, it's we just, when you're in the beginning and you're talking to someone and you talk to someone about everything, it doesn't even matter what it is. Like, what did you eat for
Yeah.
breakfast?
Yeah.
You see, we weren't getting there. Do you know what I'm saying? We weren't at
Mhm.
that place where like, I just want to know how you're doing just because like I'm just so like into you right now. We weren't
Yeah.
getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so even after, the whole conversation and we cleared the air, we still weren't communicating. We still weren't, there wasn't that level of communication that I would have liked. And I would prefer, and I would like to see when someone's really interested in me. Let me just put it,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't speak for him. I can only speak for me. And I felt like we just weren't there. Like it wasn't, it would have been nice. Like there were hints of it. It was kind of
Yeah.
there, but it was just kind of like, if it's this difficult for me to get like that level of communication, that level of
Mhm.
affection and care, then like, and if I have to constantly like pursue you to get that reciprocation and you're not being proactive, then what is that going to be like down the road when we're
Yeah.
used to each other,
Yeah.
when the newness wears off, right? When like if it's that difficult in the beginning. And so these are things that I was like very sensitive to. And so
Mhm.
um I don't think that he's like he's a stoic guy. He's a stoic
Yeah.
but I think that I just needed him to open up for me just a little bit more.
Okay.
Mhm.
You also voiced concern about him maybe being, having very traditional views as far as, that seemed to be the biggest issue with you all to me. It's like he seems to want someone that is going to be a little bit that word that Black women do not like hearing, submissive. And you definitely were clear that that is not who you are. Did you all talk through that? And did you see signs of that? Because I know you mentioned that you were talking to his friends and they had mentioned that he was that way. But did you get that energy from him that he would have been just very narrow minded and a little? It seemed like a little chauvinistic in the way he approached relationships.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that he has a very traditional view on relationships. I don't. I have
Okay.
a very traditional view. But I did grow up in a traditional household, so I have an appreciation for them. There were signs of not that like chauvinism. I don't think that. I think that in the conversations that we had, Demetrius wants to be supportive to his spouse. Like
Hmm.
he's talked about, I don't want her to worry about anything. I want to handle all of the bills. I want to handle all of the stress, so she can be the person that she wants to be, like uninhibited. Like
Hmm.
that's the type of person that he is. So,
Hmm.
but I do think that there's a certain level of deference that he expects from his women. I also think that there's a little bit of, think like he really wants you to think about things in the way that he thinks about them, the process and the process that he is. So I wouldn't say like controlling, but just like a little bit more of like he wants someone who's going to conform to him.
Hmm.
And so, and that scared me. I'm not gonna lie, that scared me as someone who's like extremely independent to have someone be like, do it this way, think this
Yeah.
way. It was a little off-putting for me. I don't know if that's like my West Coast roots or what. I don't know. I don't know if that's like, me carrying in other experiences. I don't know, but it kind of threw me off. And so when his friend mentioned the whole submissive thing, I was like, so I wasn't tripping. Your
Yeah.
boy said it. You know what I mean? Like your boy
Yeah.
said it. And so you always get to know how someone is when you meet their friends, let me tell you. So
That's true. But I think that's true. But I would say, and you can let me know what you think about this. I think when you've been in a relationship for a long time, you have an idea of what works for you or what has been, and anything that's different, it just takes you a while to get to know people's personalities. So it seemed like it was. Let me ask you: in your marriage, were you more independent? Did you guys have more of a like a I guess equal uh, type of roles and not quite as traditional, more contemporary type vibe?
I think it was a balance. There were definitely things. I think I followed him in certain respects where he was very strong,
Hmm.
like I definitely adhere to someone if you show like, you know, an expertise or a strength in a certain area that I'm not, you know, strong in, like I'm for sure going to follow you. Like
Yeah.
that's, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say that like I'm a master of all trades and I can do everything by myself. Like I want a man who can teach me new things. I want a man that I can rely on. I want a man that I can follow in certain senses. But I also want a man who sees me as an asset, who
Right.
values my opinion, who wants
Yeah.
my insight, and who also is man enough to follow me in the areas that I'm strong in.
Okay.
That reciprocation, you know,
Yeah.
I want someone who's equal. We're equally yoked. We're a team. We're together. Right? And so, and I did have aspects of that in my marriage as well, you know, and I'm looking for that as well.
For that, yeah. Okay. So the decision to not move forward and to self-eliminate, did you think about was that something that you spent a lot of time thinking about, or did you just know like this?
Yeah, like it's difficult, right? It's difficult to say that you're going to pull the plug on something that you spent so much time in. You know, people were like, "Oh, she looks tired." I was like, "Yeah, you can imagine like the emotional gymnastics that you're going through in this situation." Like, and and you know that all this is going to happen, and eventually it's going to be shared with the world. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
and so it's definitely one of those things. But I thought long and hard about it, and the option to, you know, ride it out and to see what happened was definitely there. But for me, I think it was I had to listen to that internal voice and just, you know, really just follow my heart and say, like, Sabrina, when you look at these men, do you really see like love here? Or is
Yeah.
this people that you would just date? You know what I mean? And I think that's a very big difference between dating someone who's a good guy. Like I told Demetrius, you're a good guy. And
Yeah.
speak ill of any of the guys. It's just like, but you're not my guy. And there's a very big difference. I think that when you meet someone who's a good character, when you meet someone who's a promise, but really feeling like, man, this is my person, you know,
Yeah.
feeling that could be my person was something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for me, that was the stake. That was the benchmark for me. It was not like, oh, you know, can I meet with someone who's cool enough to date for the next 6 months to a year? It's like, oh,
Right.
that's not what I was looking for, you know. And
Okay.
the benchmark was like, can I really find someone that I feel like we could be long term, that we
We
can
could that this could be this could be a future.
this could be my person. Like this is
Yeah.
my life partner, you know? That's where the benchmark was for me. That's what love means to me. And so I went into it with that. And so to have to pull the plug and remove myself and be honest with myself because I didn't feel like that person was there. It was hard. You know, you
Yeah.
don't want to ever hurt anyone's feelings. You don't want to ever feel like, you know, you wasted anyone's time or you wasted your own time. I don't believe that it's a waste of time, these things. I think that like in real life, right? We date people for months, we'll date people for weeks, and it don't work out. This happens
True.
all the time. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
And you can meet someone's family and it still don't work out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was just important for me to stay true to self more than anything. Cause I was like, you know,
Yeah.
I've been through too much. I've just been through too much to have to like try to appease anyone or to try to, you know, fulfill a fairy tale.
No, I respect that. You have to respect that because being true to yourself is the first step. It's hard to, you know, actually be true to someone else if you're not being true to yourself first. So I definitely respect that. I also think this is just again Crystal's opinion. When you just come out of a divorce not long ago, because a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes it's not long when you've been in a marriage and been one, you know, been together as one, then you come apart, especially when you've known that person that long. Do you think that you may need to kind of date and see what you want, or do you think you know exactly what you know? Do you feel like when it's there you'll recognize it, or do you think you need a little bit more time just to kind of be single?
I mean, I'll be open to, you know, the process. For me, I feel like when the right person appears, I'll know it. I think that connections, that spark is something that you could say what you want. I know I have a list. I know I have a list of things that
Nothing wrong with that.
have a list. But I really do feel that like when you meet someone and there's that spark and there's that connection and it's undeniable, the list goes out the window, right? I really feel that way. And so
That's true.
I don't think that time is an indicator of healing, right? I don't think time tells how much you can heal, but I do think that it's important for you to spend time by yourself after getting out such a serious relationship. And
Yeah.
so
And
I
get to know different personalities. What did you learn about yourself during this process?
I think for me, I realized that like how strong I can be in these weird scenarios. Because remember, I've never done anything like this. Like I've never done anything like any type of speed dating. I've never done apps. I've never done any of that. Like none of that existed before like I got married.
Yeah.
So like this is kind of me being thrown kind of into the deep end a little bit. I realized that I can really see the beauty in almost anyone, right? Like if you like, I can find that in a person because I'm like that. Like I like people. Like so, I think that part of it. I think it also taught me that like I just won't settle. Like and I don't care who don't like it.
Yeah, no, and that's you. You should continue like that. No, what you don't. It's not settling is not fair to you, and it's also not fair to the other person.
To the other person. That's
you don't want to be with someone who in their head is thinking I'm settling for her. It's like, no, sir, keep it moving. Don't settle for me. If that's not, if I'm not what you want, please keep it moving. So I think we have to give other people that same grace. Don't do that. So that's we have to respect that. I have to ask you one question about one more guy. We talked about Donovan. That was a huge shock. And of course, Demetrius and Tori. There was a really uncomfortable scene with Laverne when he was on his way out. And we talked to Laverne, and he, there was a lot going on. Laverne was a lot going on. Have you all talked since that situation? And looking back on it, do you feel like you may have given him a harder time, or do you think he deserved the way you came at him? How do you feel about that?
I don't regret what happened.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay.
Very clear.
Okay.
Of that. It was actually a little bit more heated than what they shared.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, I'm just not going to tolerate anyone disrespecting me.
Yeah.
And that's really what it was. He came in hot. He was talking down to me, talking over me, yelling at me, accusing me of things. And I'm going to match that energy. I'm not going to be ran over. I'm sorry. Like, I know the TVs are here, but I'm not going to be ran over just because you're in your feelings about getting eliminated.
Right.
Not my problem.
Yeah, because it really had nothing to do with you. It had to do with the process and the fact that he wasn't really making a connection with anyone in a real way in that process. And so I think you kind of were.
He had a connection with Ace. He had a connection with Ace at the time, and it was a strong connection. And I think he had like tunnel vision because I think they had a really intense spark, right? I think they had a really intense connection. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, in the way this works,
it wasn't enough.
If you don't have other connections,
right?
You're not going to stick around. And so he knew going into that situation that he was being eliminated.
Okay.
Like, he knew that going in. He was tipped off or whatever. And so he went in with the intention of going out with a bang. He told me that, Sabrina, it wasn't about you. It was, if it was any other woman sitting there, they would have caught that same heat. Like, he told me that. You know what I mean? Which lets me know that he wanted to go out with a bang. He's like, oh, y'all gonna eliminate me? Oh, watch what's gonna happen. And I happen to be the person on the receiving end of it, and I just couldn't tolerate it. And so so that's what happened. You know what I mean? Like, I saw what he was doing, and so I stood up for myself. Since then, yes, Laverne and I have talked a few times since then. He has apologized to me, kind of. Laverne's apologies are kind of like a I didn't mean to do that. This is what was going on, kind of thing. Like, it's very much like a rationalization type of thing. But, he's been to my house. We've talked about it. We squat. I have no issues with Laverne. We had a moment, you know what I mean? And we're moving on.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good. Cause he did say that you cursed him out, but he also told us that he did get tipped off. It was accident. Production made a snafu, and he got a call and heard that he was going to be kicked off the show. So that was kind of like put you in a really uncomfortable position, because that nobody wants to hear that. I could say that, but he shouldn't have came in and disrespected you, and you stood up for yourself. So I'm glad to hear you guys have at least had a conversation and you guys are in a good place. That's good.
I have no problems with Laverne.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So moving forward, you said you've learned. I love the fact that you said you learned that you can find something beautiful in everybody. That's an important quality, I think. I also love the fact that you are a hopeful romantic as well. And I believe sincerely that if you believe in love, love will find you. So we know that's going to happen. But for you, how has this process been watching it? Because first of all, you have to go through it and then watching it back and hearing the comments and seeing people's take on different situations, knowing that we don't have the whole picture. How has this process been for you?
Um, how has this process been for me rewatching it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's difficult reliving it. You know, it's difficult reliving it. Like you relive the highs, you relive the lows, you relive everything. You know, sometimes I'm embarrassed to see how like silly I am in certain things. In other words, I was like, oh, I wish they would have showed what led up to that. Like I
Right.
find myself doing that a lot. Like, oh, I wish they would have shown why I was so serious in that moment, or I wish they would have shown like why I was like laughing at that point. I felt like there was context that was missing a little bit.
Right.
It's difficult watching it. It's difficult reliving it, but some parts are fun. Some parts are definitely not so fun
Yeah.
to watch. But it's an experience of a lifetime. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
I can't say anything bad about it.
Well, that's good. What about last question? You and Demetrius, are you all friends? Are you still in touch at all? No.
Mhm.
Move
No,
on.
you know, I tried to keep in contact after we stopped filming. I told him that, like, you know, let's be friends. Let's, like, you know, kind of thing. Things just fizzled out. It didn't really go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So, but there's no like, well, at least from my end, there's no bad blood or anything like that. It's just not there.
What about you and Tori?
Tori and I don't talk often, but we have gone out for drinks,
Okay.
like catch up and stuff like that. And so we're friendly. You know what I'm saying? We're friendly.
Mm-hmm. Do
Mhm.
you think I said last question, but I lied?
No,
Do you think that maybe your focus should have been in a different direction at all?
with who?
Tori?
No, Tori's the homie. Like,
Yeah.
Tori's a great guy. You know, he's a great guy. He's gonna make someone very happy. You know, I think he's cool, but it's just not there for
It's
us.
not your guy.
Mm-mm.
Well, your guys out there, let people know where they can follow you. You guys know we are definitely going to be locked in for the reunion. We have and the chat is has been going crazy. You guys, we're going to have Demetrius on next week, and then a couple of the other cast members, of course, next week to talk about this reunion. But let us know what is next for you and how people can keep up with you.
Yeah, you know, I'm just living my life. So you know, I had a good life before this. I have a good life after this.
There you go.
You know what I mean? But if you want to follow me, please do. It's at Sabrina.topaz on Instagram. And so appreciate
Okay.
you, love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for hanging out with us. We wish you all the best. Please come back and share with us. I tell everybody come back and share if you have something. When you find love, we've had several castmates come back and share their love stories. I'm actually going to a wedding for Shatava that was on the first season. She's getting married to an amazing guy that she found. So love is out there for all of us. I think this is part of your journey. It's a part of your journey. Yeah,
He's going to point me in the right direction to meet the right person.
I think so. And when you do, please come back and share with us.
I shall.
Because we definitely want to hear about it. We definitely love to hear that because when other people hear it, I think it inspires them. So definitely make sure you come back. And again, thank you for hanging out with us on a Friday night.
I know, right? It was my pleasure, Crystal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to clarify things, to talk about it all. It's been great.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your candor, and we will definitely be watching. Thanks so much, Sabrina. All right, have a good night. All right, Chad, we had an amazing conversation. There was so much more to that story. I hope that, answered some questions because all of us were like, what is going on with Donovan? What was that all about? So definitely good to hear the backstory for that. Like I said, we have Demetrius coming on, and I promise I have, I believe in 2 weeks, Shatava's getting married. So I'll make sure to share that, and we'll see if we can get her to come back on and share about her, her relationship, just to kind of give, this is a part of their journey. We're all on a journey to find love, and then once we find love, to be able to keep love. Trust me, it's a journey. It's a continuous journey. But our journey for tonight has ended. I thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And the chat has been amazing. You guys definitely enjoyed this. I hope that you will like this. conversation, make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, shame on you. Subscribe, like it, and share the conversation so other people that have questions about this whole triangle with Donovan, Demetrius, and Sabrina will understand what the hell happened, right? All right, I will see you guys right back here on Monday. We've got a great conversation with Lemuel Plummer from Zeus Network. We're going to ask him all about what's happening with all that drama they got going in on Zeus. And then, like I said, we'll definitely have Demetrius on next week, so you guys can ask him questions regarding what we've heard tonight. All right. I love you all for watching. Have a blessed weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.